You'll also hear from Sheila Fraser, who was then the Auditor General, and Chrétien, who was then the Prime Minister. Have a listen to this.
All that we're asking of firearms owners is to fill out 2 cards and mail them in.
The predicted cost to taxpayers, $2 million, period. Cut to yesterday. And an updated prediction from Auditor General Sheila Fraser.
And now will cost significantly more than that, up to $1 billion or more.
Yes, there was cost overrun. It was more than we expected, but the system is in place, and it's a good system, and it's very good for Canadian citizens.
More than we expected. Yeah, I guess so. $2 million to over $1 billion. Rod, do you see any kind of historical parallels here? What's going on now?
Well, of course. And another historical parallel, if you remember, Sheila Fraser came out with a report and determined, because she was the Auditor General, and determined that the Liberal Party at the time misled Parliament on the out-of-control cost. They lied to Parliament, and that was officially declared by the Auditor General. So it's all the same pattern, unfortunately.
Colleagues, we've now had 6 meetings at this committee at clause by clause. I'm going to ask colleagues to indulge me for a bit because I have a few things that I want to get on the record. The first of all, what I would like to say is that in politics, as in life, trust is easily broken, but it's extremely hard to repair. The way this amendment landed, it's frankly been a complete and total abuse of process. Again, the cart before the horse, so that we as a committee could study something that's already part of the law. That's exactly what we are being asked to do at this committee. It is a proposed amendment to a very consequential bill, and now we're being asked to do it after it's been proposed. Again, having had no chance to speak to Canadians, having had no chance to speak to our constituents or any affected group. So you can see why there's a strong reaction to this bill. The way it has been rolled out has honestly, I think I've said enough on that point.
Dealing with an ever-evolving list, but we've heard from some people who study this and write about this that say it's been done in such a broad way, it's going to essentially capture every deer hunting rifle that's out there, every moose hunting rifle that's out there.
Very antique bolt-action and even single-shot rifles. There's really an awful lot on this list, and it's attached to a bill that was originally about handguns.
Last week had proposed an amendment that effectively would expand their ban in C-21 to virtually every semi-automatic rifle out there.
So what they're looking to propose is an implementation or a national freeze on handguns. And I don't know, like I say, I don't know what a freeze means. I think what they are looking to do is prohibit, is my...
We would be able to join you to provide an overview of 2 actions Alberta has taken in order to assert our constitutional jurisdiction and protect firearms owners from an increasingly hostile federal government. First, in 2020, the federal government issued a ban on more than 1,500 models of firearms. Then, in October of this year, the federal government implemented what they characterize as a, quote, freeze on the transfer of handguns, end quote, an action that bans new handgun ownership. And then third, a month later, at the last minute, the federal government tabled amendments to Bill C-21 that ban shotguns, rifles used by hunters, farmers, and target shooters. Now, taken all together, these actions will criminalize hundreds of thousands of Canadians overnight, the majority of which reside in Western Canada. And it's becoming increasingly clear that the federal Liberal government is pursuing a strategy to ban all legal firearms ownership. The federal Liberals scared Canadians by describing some firearms as, their terminology was, quote, assault style, end quote, even though they knew that the only difference between these firearms and conventional rifles and shotguns is the styling. They also told Canadians repeatedly that these measures were not targeting law-abiding hunters and farmers. And this lie was laid bare by the amendments to C-21. Their actions are targeting Western Canadians for a reason. This is about shoring up their own political support. To do so, they seek to divide us. Western Canadians versus Eastern Canadians, rural Canadians versus urban Canadians. And Albertans have had enough. So today, we are taking action. First, as Alberta's Attorney General, I have directed that the Alberta Crown Prosecution Service take over the handling of charges involving the Firearms Act starting January 1st, 2023. Currently, the federal government handles cases involving the Federal Firearms Act. Provinces have the constitutional jurisdiction to handle federal criminal law charges, including charges under the Firearms Act. I've sent a letter to the Federal Minister of Justice as of this morning advising him that Alberta is taking this jurisdiction back. Alberta's Crown prosecutors will now determine whether or not to pursue charges under the Firearms Act, not federal government lawyers.
The 1960 Bill of Rights is still a law of this land. I mean, we have a Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is very important. But the Bill of Rights says very explicitly that Canadians have the right to life, liberty, security of the person, and also the right to enjoyment of property that cannot be deprived except with due process of law. And so if the government, under the Governor and Council, are they bound by the Bill of Rights when they come up with policies to confiscate firearms? Are they bound by the due process of law in the Canadian Bill of Rights when depriving people of the enjoyment of their property?
So the Government of Canada has circumvented the Canadian Bill of Rights, lawfully obtained property, by making that lawfully obtained property now prohibited and unlawful. That would be the fair way.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the Unacceptables podcast. Today, we're talking about guns. How are you guys doing out here? I guess we already have some people in the chat, so say hi to everybody in the chat. Jay, how are you doing?
Hola, chica and señore. I'm good. Yeah, excellent. I've had a bit of a trying couple of days, but there's a sunny, there's a sun shower on the way, that type of thing, in keeping with the spring concept.
Fair enough. I love it. Positivity is good, folks, especially in this day and age, in this climate, and in what we're facing as a society here. Positivity is good. So just to start off, everybody, down at the bottom of the screen, you'll always see a ticker. All our socials are there. Please go and follow us. And you'll see join at therabbitholeguild.com. Please hit us up with an email if you're interested in joining. We can hook you up with some cool info and lots of, for now, free exclusive content. So you might want to hit us up there, as well as,
and please do like and follow and share if you like content that we share from our partners and associates in the independent journalism world and whatnot. If we give a shout out to somebody, please do us the favor. If you like it, go and hook them up. If at least just to say thank you for that video in particular, and just keep it rolling in general. Like this is how we fight back. You know, this is the reason that there's 60 million people on Rumble. This is the reason why outfits like the Daily Wire can start to offer really big contracts and compensate people, and Tim Pool as well. It's when we start to do that, because that's what people call a positive feedback loop. You know, it starts to feed like a Forno oven, right? The hotter it gets, the hotter it gets. And if we keep that rolling and we don't sacrifice any momentum, we can do this. We can do this. You know, one province, Alberta, standing up against this shit turns into two. And pretty soon, when you have 4 provinces, they are absolutely handcuffed, because you can't have that kind of, disjointment between that's the situation where you might get the NDP out of their little coalition there. But anyway,
yeah, and so just
no,
absolutely, that's great, Jay. Thank you. And so just to clarify or to summarize for people, we're referring to what's going on here in Canada, Bill C-21, which is potentially a total gun ban. They have written into the laws that they can totally ban all guns for everybody forever. Well, at least until the next government takes over and changes law. So pay attention. I mean, pay attention to what we've put in, especially at the bottom here, things we might not say, but you can read at the bottom in the ticker that might be a way to get around being in trouble with YouTube, we'll say. You know, for me, this is a reach by the government. You don't often see a society that is disarmed, that doesn't suffer some sort of consequence that would have been lessened if they had been able to have access to arms. I think that history speaks for itself, and feel free to do some research, kids, but any society that's ever disarmed their population usually ends up with some sort of totalitarian control, some sort of authoritarian, whatever the fuck it is.
Authoritarian, yeah.
Authoritarian, thank you. Government that likes to exert some sort of method and some sort of level of control on them, on the whole population from every angle, with to do with everything. And one of those main angles and one of the sure signs that you're in that situation is that they want to disarm you. So let that sink in. And for those of you on the East Coast, I know a lot of you can't relate to this because you live in a city where you don't have to deal with wilderness, and you don't have to deal with the things that might eat you compared to things like criminals. And people are like, well, you don't need guns because you can't fight the criminals with legally owned guns. You can't defend yourself. You can't fire a gun within city limits. We have police for that, etc. Well, let me tell you, try going hunting and having a kill, and you're now quartering this kill, say it's a deer, and you leave a gut pile. You have to come back to that gut pile because you're one person or two people. You can only carry a quarter section at a time. You come back to that gut pile, and you've got a bear on your gut pile. Not only can you not get the rest of what you harvested, but now your life's in danger because in fall, especially when hunting is legal for deer, bears have no sense of humor whatsoever about their food source. So if you come anywhere near them when they're eating, especially something that is so valuable as a gut pile, they'll charge you immediately. They won't even look at you twice. They'll charge you immediately. And if you don't have access to that 12-gauge shotgun, preferably semi-automatic on your hip that you can swing down and drop it, you're going to die.
Yeah, well, one shotgun
severely maimed.
One shotgun shell will not stop a bear. Their heart beats 4 times a minute. It takes very long time for blood loss to mean anything to a bear. So, saying that people can only have bolt action rifles or very limited ammo, it doesn't help you against a bear. And this is important for me because I actually have permission from the federal government. This is what came with my schooling, that when I go up on a cut block, when I go to inspect a forestry site where there's been some logging, whatever, if there isn't an active crew on site when I go there, I am to carry a shotgun. Like I have that permission, but I'm also supposed to. I'm not supposed to be up there in the backcountry on Crown land without a shotgun.
And why would that be recommended to you, Jay? What do you think that is? And I'm being sarcastic here, or whatever label you want to put on.
Cougars, bears, what have you.
Exactly.
And so the angle there, though, is like I have to do that for work. I happen to have a shotgun that is okay, that isn't touched by C21 yet. So, but
yet being the operative word.
Well, and if my shotgun wasn't, and I was losing that, I wouldn't be taking it on site. Like even if I didn't get rid of it, I wouldn't be taking it on site if it wasn't legal. So I would have to go out and buy another one. So, and that's what in our intro there, you see the one lawyer, and this is where the buyback finally came in, and they couldn't say no to it because there's people who for work are going to have to lose their currently held weapon and buy another one. That's twice. That's like a 2-for-1. It's costing you twice as much. And so that's why the buyback came in. But nonetheless, I would still have to buy another one that might cost more, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just about hunting and defending yourself. There's people who it's part of their work,
And it's and again, I want to reiterate here, it's hard for people on the east coast of Canada, not so far as maybe not in northern Ontario, but certainly in Ontario and any super populated part of Ontario to relate to why this is an important tool for us living in this province. I, for one, personally have to defend livestock. In order to defend that livestock, especially in this type of wild area, in this type of wild country we live in BC or Alberta, I don't live there now, but I used to. You have predators, and they have no sense of humor again about their food source. If they want your food source, they're going to come get it. And unfortunately, sometimes you have no choice. Warning shots only do so much until they get used to the noise. Sometimes you got to drop them, and that's an unfortunate choice we have to make, but it's in order to defend the livestock. And a lot of the times livestock is, for me especially, is a pet everything's been named. I've bottle fed it when it comes to the goats. I've bottle fed them all and raised them all, and raised them all as my kids, pun intended, certainly. And same as the chickens. All of our chickens have names. And when you lose a couple of chickens, it's not just the fact that you've lost a food source, which is incredibly valuable and certainly very nutritious, much more nutritious than you can get from the stores, but it's also the fact that you've lost what you consider a pet, what you consider a child, for something that wants to, invade your land and find a food source. So
if you're a good farmer, it means more than just the dollars. Yeah. Right.
That's just it. I mean, a good farmer farms with a bit of feeling. My
It's called animal husbandry. I mean, husband in the operative word there.
I think my family and anybody, any other farmer would say you can't farm with your heart, and you have to make decisions that are best for financial things. But for anybody that's human, that's difficult. For me, it's difficult. For those of you that are quite comfortable doing that, good on you. I struggle with that one. So that said, I defend my livestock, my land, with absolute impunity, and I don't feel that should ever be changed. I would never harm a person ever, unless I was in direct fear of egregious bodily harm, or somebody in my care was in direct fear of egregious bodily harm, and there was a justifiable reason for it. And I don't think I'm different than any other legal gun owner in Canada. We're not criminals. And the Liberal government has painted any gun owner, and is about to label and actually criminalize a lot of gun owners just by passing the amendments alone that they're planning to push through on C-21. So, it's not too late to get involved. This is not law yet. And I pray that this sinks in for a few of you people, even if it's completely out of the realm of, a conspiracy theory, you want to call it, or whatever it is, where, they're not trying to control guns to control the population. Fine. Don't buy into that. That's fine. History speaks for itself, but don't buy into that. But the very fact that they're trying to outlaw hunting rifles and guns that we use to defend our livestock and ourselves when we're hunting should be a big wake-up call to you, because these are all legally, we're the most scrutinized portion of the population here in Canada. Our credentials are run through the system every 24 hours. If we've had an interaction with the police in any 24-hour span, you'll be getting a knock, you'll be getting a call, because you're a gun owner. So we are the most law-abiding citizens in the country, and somehow they're going to criminalize us by simply doing what we legally have done always, and with no crime statistics. And on that note, Jay, if I may, I want to roll this first clip I've done here. Do you mind?
No, go ahead, please do. Yeah.
Right. Okay, here we go. So this is the type of person that we have commenting on what should be done with gun legislation in Canada. So I'm just going to roll this, listen in here.
Get it done. Get those things through. Gun control is another huge issue for them. They have messed up the rollout of a big signature promise from the campaign, which was to deal with assault-style weapons.
So I would submit to those of you that are watching, listening, that this fucking idiot has no idea what she's talking about. Assault-style weapons. What does that actually mean? I think that people have some sort of idea that you can legally purchase military-grade weapons in Canada. You cannot. You haven't been able to since I've been alive. A military-grade weapon is, in fact, fully auto-capable, and nothing you can buy here is fully auto-capable. So I'm going to keep this rolling, but just think of the logic here. Think of that. This is the type of person that is trying to decide what we should do about gun control, when the entirety of policing in Canada has said this will make absolutely no difference by eliminating legally certified PAL owners from purchasing these weapons. This will make no difference, handguns included. And you can't, as far as handguns are concerned, when you get your RPAL, which is a restricted PAL, you have to apply to get your gun from your house, from your gun safe, to the range. You're only allowed to use it at the range, and then you're only allowed to bring it right back home and put it right back in your gun safe. So I don't know what anybody thinks this is going to accomplish, but in my mind, and not just my mind, in the minds of almost all of law enforcement, this will accomplish nothing. Anyways, let's listen to this fucking moron here.
Gun bans and assault-style weapons. It's a disaster, that legislative initiative. And it's also angered people who otherwise would be their partners in either the Bloc or the NDP on gun control. So, you know, I think that they have to step up and be better. You know, like, get it done. Get those things through. Gun control is another huge issue for them. They have messed up the rollout of a big
So, I mean, we have a clear example of people who have absolutely no knowledge about the weapons that are being banned and about guns in general, sounding off, you know, on camera, on mainstream media, about their opinion on guns and why the liberals should move forward with it. And to me, that's absurd. I mean, you have no credentials that allow you to speak on the subject. You don't know anything about it, and you have a very narrow view of the world. You're looking at the world right in front of your eyes, which is, generally speaking, Ottawa, Toronto, somewhere in Ontario. And you don't see the rest of the country as anything. You think that the whole country is in your one little part of the world. And that's no way to govern. That's no way to lead, and that's certainly no opinion to have. No credible opinion to have in the rest of the world's opinion when it comes to anything, and especially when it comes to gun control, because we do use these as tools. A gun is a tool, and let me tell you, I can be just as deadly with a hammer as I can be with a shotgun at close range. So, are you going to start banning my hammer now? Are you going to ban my pen because I can stab somebody in the eyeball from close range and kill them? Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
To think of it.
Well, and that's
and
when you talk about. Oh, sorry, Scott.
No, I'm just going to say this is all about Hollywood and about propaganda, making guns seem scary, and about all these things that occur in the States. What fucking difference does it make what happens in the States here? We have our own laws. We've had our own very stringent, very peculiar laws. I think a lot of them are a little bit strange and a little bit maybe much, but we've had a lot of very, very strong, very stringent laws in Canada about gun control and about gun possession for a very long time. And we don't have gun crime here. Any of the gun crime we do have is all committed with illegally imported, owned, and purchased firearms. There is no gun crime from legal gun owners.
No. What I was going to say about short range too is where I grew up in southern Alberta. Shout out to Staveley, Claresholm area. Where I grew up as a kid, we were in cougar country, and like big time cougar country. And when you went hunting,
for here in Vancouver, that's Kitsilano. That's where all the cougars hang out.
Right. So when you went hunting there, you would carry a sidearm, and that is because cougars are stealthy. A bear can't sneak up on you. I mean, if a bear can sneak up on you, you shouldn't be in the bush. But a cougar can sneak up on you, and you may not have time to bring a rifle up and take aim and actually hit it or do any damage. A sidearm you can. And so people hunting in that area always had sidearms. And now that's gone too. Handgun, well, it will be within a year under this regime. And just while I'm at it, Scott, I got one question from a viewer of last Thursday's episode, because we ran with the same promo video and stuff. Right. And their question was, and this was a little bit of a derisive question, but I thought still an okay one. Mm-hmm. If someone's gun is stolen in a city, mm-hmm. is that gun owner held responsible for negligent storage of that weapon, or do they have to have it in a safe? Anyway,
so there are, okay, so first of all, so everybody knows there are very stringent conditions and laws to storing guns and ammunition in Canada. So everything has to be incredibly secure, like so secure that you'd be more likely to rob a home and get away with their jewels than their guns and their ammunition. So that shouldn't ever be anybody's fear. Very rarely are legally owned guns ever stolen and used in a crime. And you can look up those statistics online pretty easily. I looked them up and it's minuscule. It's like so rare, and it's almost never what you would think. It's like these rare things, like somebody broke into grandma and grandpa's place and they had they were there. He was in World War II and he had an M1 or an Enfield 303 in there, and they stole that and used it in a robbery. It's not like they're using like bolt action rifles from World War II in a mass shooting. Like it's so ridiculous. Even the preposition that they might be like, okay, well here's the thing, we're gonna say that you have to ban all guns more or less because they're causing the crime. But they can't back that up with statistics. There isn't a single statistic that agrees with that. There isn't a single policing agency that agrees with that. There's not one. Like show me one. Show me evidence of one policing agency in Canada that's like, yeah, control the legal gun owners because that's going to make a difference in gun crime. There isn't one.
From the news articles I saw, there are, if there are any police chiefs in Canada that believe that this gun control law is a good idea, I haven't seen any. All of the ones that I've seen, Calgary, Regina, Winnipeg, Oshawa, who else did I look at here? Charlottetown, PEI, St. John, all of these police chiefs said this isn't going to do anything except for suck up resources unnecessarily.
And it's not just the police chiefs, it's the police unions, it's the police press agencies, it's every agency, every body, every public, sort of function that the police do. They've all said that this is dumb and this is a waste of money. And this is criminalizing the most law-abiding portion of our country. For what reason? We went through a lot to get our gun licenses. We went through a lot to make sure that we do everything right to make sure we're safe, the public is safe, and there's no chance that our weapons or our guns could ever be used in a crime. And yet somehow you want to vilify us and criminalize us. And there is no logic to this whatsoever, other than what I may have suggested at the start of the stream. Now, I don't want to say too much here, Jay, but you had a clip, I think, didn't you? You wanted to
Yeah,
is it?
let me roll that.
Can you roll that one for us? Because I want to expand on what the subject matter is. Okay, we'll be right back, folks. Give us about 3 minutes here, or 5 minutes.
Asking Canadians, is the government going too far with gun control? Ottawa.
I'm not sure. I have a brother who owns pistols, but he's a registered firearm owner. He practices at range and he keeps his weapons safe. So I think the only thing you're going after is people who have illegal guns, and they're going to have them no matter how many things you put up. So it's kind of like you're just hurting people that are already following the law.
No, probably doesn't go far enough.
Why?
We don't need guns. We just don't need guns.
The problem isn't with legal guns. In my opinion, it's the illegal gun owners that are the problem, and taking away legal guns does nothing for the problem. You need to be taking it away from the ones that aren't licensed and shouldn't be having the guns, not the ones who've gone through the training to properly learn how to own and handle the gun.
No, I don't think there's any need for any.
Funny you should mention that. I have a firearms license, and I'm a Canadian, and what the current government are doing regarding firearms is, how can I put this politely? It's un-Canadian, all right? It's un-Canadian. I'm a Canadian. I was born here. My parents were born here. My high school had a shooting range. Okay. The high schools here on PEI had shooting ranges. So it's un-Canadian what they're doing. It's got no connection to reality. It's all political.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, why? Like, when you look at crime, it's not people going out there with their hunting guns. When you look at what's actually happening, it has nothing to do with people having arms. They've had arms all their lives. Farmers and sportsmen, and they're licensed, and they go through rigorous training. I know people who hold handguns who are licensed. They put them in a safe so that they're away. They're always not loaded. They're incredibly responsible people.
Nah, that's a sensitive issue because as Canadians, we grew up in a country as hunters and we use firearms, and now we definitely handguns. This has to be what a person's not using a handgun to go hunting, right? So I think that yes has to be strictly enforced. That you don't ban a handgun. A person wants to go use it as a hobby and go to a firing range to fire a weapon. But other than that, there shouldn't be people. But as far as taking away the rights of a person to go hunting, no, that should stay the way it is. I think.
I'd say seeing what's going on down in the States.
I think that they have gone a little bit overboard on that because I think it's very important that people have the ability to self-defend themselves, and also they have to have the ability to hunt if that's their primary source of food. But I think that they should be able to implement something, when it comes to criminal checks and things like that, just to make sure that it's not just going into anyone's hands.
Difficult to say. Hunters deserve to have the ability to hunt and the equipment to hunt, meaning guns. But as far as military-style weapons, no, don't see that.
100%, totally. I believe the firearms ban, which originally started as purely with handguns and then reached into hunting rifles, is a complete overstretch of the government. And honestly, I believe the government is beginning to overstep their constitutional right as a federal government and are beginning to directly interfere in the provincial levels of governance.
So who exactly is supporting this?
Seeing what's going on down in the States.
Seems to be neo-feminists who watch too much CNN. We live in Canada, AOC.
So, I mean, all of this should speak for itself. Pretty much everything I said, everything Jay said was just reiterated by the population of Canada at random. That clip was by CPAC. CPAC is the most straight in the middle possible reporting you could get, because they literally just go around with video and report exactly what's going on. They have no reporters, it's just video. So
in multiple cities.
In multiple cities. So if you're gonna get the most bipartisan reporting you could get, you're looking at it right there. I want to bring up something.
Great tradition.
Yeah.
If there's one media source that should never go away on any level, it's CPAC, in my opinion.
I agree 100%. I wouldn't even I wouldn't even bat an eyelash at supporting them if they needed it. I don't think they do. I think they get supported by the government, which is a good thing the government does, oddly.
CPAC was written into the Constitution in 1992.
Brilliant. I love it. I did not know that. Thank you, Jay, for the education.
You bet.
Jay Shaw, everybody, always a source of information and education, and I don't mean that lightly in any way or sarcastically. Take heed to what the man says. I want to bring up something from the chat here, folks. Heather, if you're watching, clearly you must be because you're chatting. Yep. Shut up for a second. I'm kidding. So Jay, here's a comment by Heather. Here it is underneath here. I'll read it to you in case your screen's too small. You don't have to be trained to buy a gun in the US. It's as easy as buying candy. And in the US, that is the reality. It's easier to buy a gun than it is to get a job.
Yeah.
In Canada, if you don't have a job, you're probably not going to get a gun. I mean, there's no law that says you have to have a job to get a gun, but the likelihood is that if you don't have a job, you're probably in the lower sector of society. And I mean, for those of you that are, multi-millionaires and just sit on money, I'm not insulting you. And for those of you that are currently underemployed, I'm not insulting you. Please, nobody take this the wrong way, but I would suggest that the majority of society that is unemployed by choice or by not trying to usually has some other factor going on, and generally speaking, they're not gun owners.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I mean that's one thing I would suggest to anybody out there who's skeptical about the responsibilities. Google FAC license and see, if just any old Joe Schmo can get a gun. Because I'll tell you, that shooting in Nova Scotia, this hasn't quite been confirmed yet, but it's been claimed.
I've got some inside goods on that one, Jay. So
okay, so yeah, I was just going to say it's been claimed that the person responsible for that was denied purchase of firearms a week before and got firearms anyway, which might tie into my Thursday. On Thursday, Scott, I'm going to do a piece on one specific place and one specific way that 104 handguns got to Montreal over the border with Vermont.
Yeah, I've heard the story. Actually, I've heard the story.
Yeah, I'm going to cover that a little bit. I've got an email chain going with the border patrol officer in the States, who happens to be one of the sheriff departments who is refusing to exercise the laws in his brother, I think, is refusing to exercise the new gun control laws in Illinois. So shout out to Illinois. 90 of 102 sheriffs said that they will not enforce the current Illinois gun control law that just came out. So cheers
to
gentlemen.
Illinois. Here's my Pabst Blue Ribbon as usual. They're not sponsors of the show. They may not condone me showing their beer on air. If we got a strike, I'm sorry. Whatever. Either way, cheers.
Yeah, it's okay. All the Brady fans be drinking Pabst.
There you go. There you go. Well, I mean, hey, listen, if we get a bunch of our followers taking pictures or shooting videos of themselves drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon, Pabst might be like, hey, let's shoot these guys a few bucks or some kind of something just to, give them a push. So you never know. But either way, it's my beer of choice because it's gluten-free. Kids, did you know that Pabst Blue Ribbon is a rice beer, as is Budweiser, both gluten-free? Did you know that?
I did. Yeah, because I went to Pabst. Beautiful brewery, real nice.
Very
No,
nice.
I did. Yeah.
Let's get back on subject here, Jay. I loved that video you put together. Thank you for that one. And
no problem.
my take was reinforced or supported by that. So I mean, there's not really much for me to add to that. It was more like I supported the video and then you rolled it. So
Yeah. That's why I said closer to the end might be cool because it kind of supports the whole body of your work, really. Like,
but I've
Yeah.
got some more here, so I want to roll
Yeah,
this
yeah.
one for everybody. So this one, I think, is more relevant because it'll
Yeah.
point out a lot of holes in the Bill C-21 being tabled, and very, very clear, very easy to digest and rationalize for people. So let's roll this, Jay. This is the Scrap C-21 clip here by the CCFR, which is, oh geez, I can't even remember. Canadian Constitution Firearms something. Anyways, here, let's roll it. We'll tag them in the description of the video as we go. All right, we'll be right back. All right, more again on the Liberals' gun ban. Here we go. Let's watch this off of Twitter. Different perspective from the CCFR, and let's get involved here. Scrapc21.ca.
The Liberal government is in the process of banning over half of the legal firearms in Canada, and possibly even more. This is a result of the May 2020 gun ban and the Liberals' new Bill C-21. Justin Trudeau and Marco Mendicino have consistently claimed that they aren't banning any firearms used for hunting in Canada.
We've been very clear that we are not targeting law-abiding hunters and fishers. We're not going after shotguns or rifles. Let me be very, very clear on this. We are moving forward on a ban on assault-style weapons.
We are targeting those AR-15 style guns which have been used in mass casualties. And this
kinds of weapons that are used to kill the largest number of people as quickly as possible.
They have also consistently
Still
claimed
can't
that
buy
others
fully
are
auto
spreading
here.
misinformation,
Fucking idiots.
accusing them of banning firearms used for hunting.
that we are not targeting law-abiding gun owners. We are not targeting those guns which are commonly used for hunting.
That the Conservative Party is in the pockets of the gun lobby and trying to spread disinformation.
My honourable colleague from the Conservative Party can continue to spread disinformation, but I will tell you very clearly.
But in the amendments to Bill C-21 that the Liberals themselves tabled, countless hunting rifles and shotguns will be banned, such as the Weatherby Mark V, the Benelli M1 Super 90, the 1908 Brazilian Mauser, and the SKS, just to name a few. Trudeau later said this.
There are some guns, yes, that we're going to have to take away from people who were using them to hunt and say, but we're going to also make sure that you're able to buy other guns from a long list.
So are the Liberals banning hunting rifles? Yes, they banned some in 2020, and they intend to ban countless more using Bill C-21 and its amendments. And this bill provides the legal ability to ban every firearm left in Canada. These are the easily verifiable facts. But remember, Bill C-21 isn't law yet, and there are things you can do to stop it. For more information, go to scrapc21.ca. That's scrapc21.ca.
Yeah, so I mean, it's pretty clear there, Jay.
Mhm.
We don't have to be geniuses to figure out the fact that the Liberals backpedaled on a lot of things they said they wouldn't do and did them anyway. And it would appear for only one reason. I mean, really, what could the reason be? They said we don't need to go after hunters, we don't need to go after sport shooters, we don't need to go after grandpa for his shotgun to defend his fucking sheep. And now they've changed their mind and they need to. There could really only be one reason for that.
Yeah.
And I want this
And,
to sink in. And that reason is very clear. It's about controlling the population, so there's no way you can resist them if they do something that might be considered tyrannical.
Mhm. Yeah,
That-
I
that's a
want
fact.
to share a quote from just a little over 6 months ago, when Vladimir Putin said to the United States, "Do not give them your guns." Why would someone like that say a thing like that to a country like that?
I wonder why. I wonder why. He has no reason that wouldn't benefit him ever in any way.
No, especially if he's planning to invade. He would rather, if he actually wanted to invade the United
He
States,
would
if he was
want the
actually a
population disarmed.
threat. Yeah, he would say, well, disarm them, and then I'll come in and gather those guns from the warehouse that you put them in.
Because the quick calculation for anybody, tactically speaking, would be, hey, listen, there are 338 million people, 335 million people in the States, and about half of them own guns. That's a lot of people with a lot of guns, and that's a lot of tactical issues to control. So
Mhm.
they would never say, they would promote, he certainly would promote, if he was planning to do any kind of invasion or have any kind of military issue with the States where he was planning on taking over the world or being what they're painting him out to be, he would say, yeah, give up your guns because, they're going to try and use them. He would use some kind of ploy, some kind of message to fool us into wanting to give up our guns and our ammunition and think that it's unnecessary. And the Russians and the Chinese, the communists, would have programmed us and put this into messaging 20 years ago, and they did not.
But what Putin is actually concerned about is what kind of a monster does he have to deal with that could make people like Canadians and Americans roll over. He would have to deal with that monster himself, and he doesn't want to do that. So he wants us to keep that monster from ever existing. And the way that we do that is by acting more like our brothers and sisters south of the border, because our country was not founded on a revolution. We peacefully gained our independence. We don't understand what almost every other country does, is that there's going to be some time where the citizenry is going to have to defend itself against localized tyranny. And if you think that your country is not capable of having localized tyranny, domestic tyranny, take a look at what's going on in Atlanta, Georgia, and Memphis, Tennessee. And my heart goes out to the people of Memphis right now with what occurred there, but what Antifa's been doing. And if you have any sense of history, I want you to look back to Russia and look at the Red October, look at the Russian Revolution and see what occurred there. And you tell me that Antifa isn't just like the Bolsheviks and the Menkeviks. The Bolsheviks won, but there was 2 Antifas running wild on that place. And you tell me that that's not what Antifa looks like. Go ahead and tell me that. And then ask me why we shouldn't crush that with our boot and not disarm ourselves and leave ourselves open to that kind of a menace. In the United States Bill of Rights, unlike ours, it says you have the right to bear arms and you have the responsibility to defend the Constitution against threats, foreign and domestic. And if you think that tyranny can't happen, well, then you're just crazy. You're crazy. You've never looked at human history on any level. You don't even know the last 100 years. So make yourself right with that. Educate yourselves. If you're watching this and you're skeptical and you think that there's no reason why the entire population should be disarmed, pick up a book.
Yeah. No, perfect.
Simple.
Jay, honestly. Yeah, no, it's simple. If you can't figure it out, pick up a book, do some Googling. Google's still a very powerful tool. Use it for things that are not, OnlyFans or who knows what the fuck else people waste their time on with. The most incredibly powerful engine of information ever available in history, right at your fingertips. You can search anything. You can find it. Even if you think you can't find it, you probably can. And so use it.
Although I will say that Wolfram Alpha, I think, has Google beat. So if you're a techie person watching this and you don't know about Wolfram Alpha yet, what are you doing with your life? Go and check that out. You're not going to believe. You're not going to believe. That's better than AI. I tell you, Wolfram, unbelievable. Stephen Wolfram, how that guy didn't get some kind of accolades for his work. There's a Nobel Prize in that, I believe. But yeah, check out Wolfram Alpha, because that is that is an escape hatch from Google that has more power that'll work in your favor, and it's also decentralized now. It's on the crypto sphere, so you can't unplug it from a server in California. So that's something you might want to get real acquainted with if you're concerned about why they're trying to take everybody's guns away. Wolfram Alpha is part of that discussion. So check it out.
There you go. Check it out. For those of us that are a little bit ignorant in the techie level, we will take Jay's advice and just go with it because we know nothing better.
Yeah.
So those were the two. Did you have another clip, Jay? You wanted to roll? I think we're
No, I just had the one clip this time.
okay. Well, we're almost at the end of our discussion here. Let's check in on the chat here.
Yes.
See how things are going. See what kind of trouble is brewing. Jay, can you? Here's who's this here? Erica. Jay, please spell his name Wolfram Alpha. Will you just tag that in the description maybe so people know what how to find it or what the site is or whatever?
Yeah, for Erica, I'll send the site and the white paper for sure.
Cool. Okay. Who else? There was trouble here in this. Here's Heather. We weren't paying attention. There could have been some slaps on the wrist, or maybe potentially at least a one stream ban. Sure, give up our guns. Here's Heather. Sure, give up our guns, and then they drop zombie apocalypse on our asses. So
yeah, exactly.
That's not out of the realm of possibilities. I mean,
no, it's not.
You never know, but ultimately,
what do you think they're doing with COVID, with the COVID-19 there? What kind of witches brew you think they're brewing up there?
They're manipulating it to. We saw the Pfizer executive get involved in the Project Veritas sting, admit that they were trying to manipulate this thing, and yeah. Oh, shoot. I'm not supposed to talk about that.
No. I'm saying that guy's cut off. He's done. He got fired already.
Yeah, he got fired already, but we shouldn't be talking about this in stream because we might get a strike here. That's completely banned on Twitter. So, or on YouTube.
On YouTube. Oh, that's okay. I'll blurp it out when I do that. When I put together the replay.
All right.
Just kind of.
Hopefully live they're not onto us. I mean, we only have half a dozen viewers, so it doesn't matter. Here's Heather. One more, and this is a good one here, Jay. So a good point here. I'm gonna pop this on screen for everybody. Look how fast Trudeau instituted martial law when citizens took a stand against vaccine mandates. Imagine no way to protect yourself. So that's exactly it. That's what we're speaking to right now in all of this, is that if ever a government, and Jay mentioned what the laws are like in the States and what the A2 actually means in the States is it's to protect against enemies, foreign and domestic. And I suppose we don't have laws like that written here in Canada, but that's not to say we shouldn't. Certainly, when you have politicians and reporters in the States and all over the world calling our current sitting PM a tyrannical dictator, and that's verbatim, that should be cause for concern. And when this tyrannical dictator is now like, well, disarm my whole population because I'm being a prick face and I don't want them to have any chance to defend themselves against the thugs and the jackboots I'm going to set upon them, and the horses I'm going to stamp on their population with, the old ladies with, people in walkers, and I'm going to, butt stroke veterans in the streets in the cold, and I'm going to hit ladies with, certainly with
horses?
Pepper spray and just whatever. I'm going to fuck up my whole population. But don't have guns because I'm okay. I'm a good man, and I'm an ethical, moral person who's going to lead this country, with love. Just give up your guns. Don't worry, it's okay.
Yeah,
I think you'd be a fucking idiot to give up anything that you could defend yourself with at this point in this climate, and judging just based on what we can see. We don't even know what's being done in the background. We don't even know what they're theorizing or planning in the background. We only know what we can see and what we have as evidence on video and what we saw in Ottawa, and what we see this fucking buffoon say, on camera. We don't know what they actually do in the background. And we saw some of that in the EA inquiry when they said, let's paint the freedom movement and the truckers as some sort of political dissidents. And let's really make it look really bad so that the rest of Canada will get behind us getting rid of them, because we don't really like the fact that they have a problem with what we're doing and what we say and what our policies are.
That's that bullshit line that dirtbag who runs the RCMP tried to feed us, that there was all kinds of loaded weapons in Coutts, Alberta.
No, there weren't. That's a lie. That's an outright lie.
It was perjury when they did that. When they said that, when the RCMP announced that, which they shouldn't have even announced anyway,
No.
it was perjury.
It was so.
Plain and simple. Yeah.
And that's, I mean, honestly, folks, that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at a government who gambles on, and quite effectively, apparently, the fact that you will believe what they say over the facts, and that you won't take the time to go look up what actually happened. And we've talked about this before. Your attention span is about 13 seconds, that of a goldfish. So if they tell you today that 3 weeks ago they never said this, you'll believe them. So
all
stop
narcissists,
doing that.
all
Stop doing
narcissists rely on that exact approach. All narcissists.
Exactly.
Yeah, they
And
do
our
that.
Canadian government is a band of narcissists, at least the current elected government. And
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
he fired all the non-narcissists immediately when he got there. Yeah, all the women who weren't narcissists.
Yep. Get rid of them, because you gotta all be prick faces, just like me. Just like me, Mr. Justin Fuckface.
And I'll tell you this, and you know what? I know people are going to say, "Oh, it's extreme and whatever." So when you talk about how you can normalize things to people, I'm going to go back to Soviet Russia, because you know what? I'm telling you, there's a lot of Marxism around, and it's not out of the question to talk about Soviet Russia when the issue of Marxism comes up. There's a lot of pro-Marxism right now, so I'm going to say it. When Romania and Poland left the Soviet Union, when they rebelled, they gained their freedom, and they killed Ceausescu, the citizens in those countries went on as if they were still in the Soviet Union for weeks. It took a very long time to convince them that they had their freedom. They wouldn't believe the television that showed them their new leaders, their democratically selected leaders that were planning an election. They thought it was a fake by the Soviets to find out who were the good Soviets. And all the people who went out and tried to participate in this little democracy, they would get you and haul you off to Siberia. That's how programmed they were. You can do that to people. You can program people to the point where you can literally show them the truth in black and white or in moving color videography. You can show them the fact, and they will not believe it if you have programmed them enough. And that is what they're doing to a lot of our society. When the lady says, if you look at what's going on in the States, that's the result. That's an ideologue, somebody who's been dogmatically dictated and literally programmed to function in that way and to have this checklist of things that they say. Nothing creative, nothing of your own thinking. You have a checklist. Say the liberal catchphrases. And they're not liberals either, because liberals would never go for this type of totalitarian rule. There's something else.
No,
Marxists.
They're Marxists. The liberals or the Marxists, I suppose, have painted themselves as liberals. So what you're seeing is not liberalism. You're seeing Marxism. And you only have to go back and read a few books and look at history to understand that what we're saying is true. Marxism exists and thrives on the perversion of morality, among other things. And you see that, and you see this movement. And we've covered this on a lot of streams. I want to leave everybody with this. My take on this whole situation, as far as gun control and as far as C-21 is concerned, is very simple. I'll drill it right down to one simple thing, okay? They are trying to outlaw guns that are not being used for crimes. That's it. They are trying to make legally scrutinized, stringent condition following gun owners. They're trying to label us as criminals.
To buy votes for the future.
To buy votes.
And to solidify their control.
For the ignorant people that make up the general portion of our population, which is Ontario. And I'm not saying that as an insult. I mean that you're not ignorant in the sense of you're not capable of knowledge. I mean that you're ignorant in the sense of what guns could be and how they are used as a tool and how they are traditionally and have been traditionally used all across Western Canada, Northern Canada, and sort of Middle Canada for decades, hundreds of years.
Yeah,
That
they're
is
all
not
locked up.
that is not a crime, and they're all used legally, safely. So
they're all locked
please.
up under lock and key. Nobody's coming. Nobody can take them.
No.
Gun owners are making sure that nobody can take. If you had a gun, let's say you're not a gun owner. If you had a gun, it's got a serial number on it. You think that you would allow there to be a scenario where somebody would steal that and go and do a crime that you're then convicted of? Of course you wouldn't.
No,
you would guard that with your life. You would put that in a safe. You would be very, very cautious. You wouldn't even tell people you had it.
No, you wouldn't. But I would think that the more higher order of thought there would be for most gun owners, certainly for me, is that I could never take the guilt of a gun that I didn't properly store being stolen and used in a crime to end somebody's life.
Yeah.
I would hope that's the higher thought there. For me, that's what it is. Certainly, it's not about, well, I'm not legally responsible. It's for me personally, it's like I could never imagine the thought of a gun that I stored improperly being stolen and being used in a crime for whatever.
But even an immoral person would also have the same thing because they would be looking at their liability. So even if you're talking about somebody who's completely amoral, they're still going to watch their caboose, man. That's it.
Yep.
It's not in their interest for those guns to go being used in crimes,
And I don't disagree. I'm just telling from my personal sentiment and how I feel about things. I much more fear for people's lack of knowledge of what guns can do rather than people's ignorance of what they're being used for. And I think all of what I had to be, all of what I had to say was said. I think I summarized my part at the end there, Jay. Is there anything you want to add to us? We can, I think we have one more clip to roll, don't we?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, I guess that's it for us. It's been about an hour. We're tired of your shit anyways.
I will leave you with a quote.
All right. Fair enough. Give her.
Today's quote, although I've already mentioned one, but today's actual quote is from Billy Idol, which is, I love it when people are nasty to me because I can stop pretending to be nice.
That's never a problem for me personally because I'm never nice. So it doesn't really fucking matter. You get what you get. All right.
That's
thank
for the
you.
people who hate Twitter. That's, just think that way. It's your opportunity to not be nice when somebody does that.
Awesome.
All right. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, everybody who joined us in the chat. Erica, Heather, a few other people. I don't remember everybody's name, but thank you for joining us. Thank you for those of us here in the Unacceptables team. We're very appreciative of your support. So please, if you could, go down to the bottom, look at our socials and follow us on those socials. We'll probably add more socials later, but please get behind us, support us. We're going to keep doing this. We love you very much for joining us. Thank you. Unacceptables. This is Tuesday. And that's it for us. Good night.
Be good to each other.